Have you ever stepped into a crowded room, felt the hum of 100 conversations swirling in the air, and immediately wanted to turn around and walk away? It's not just discomfort, it's something deeper. It's a quiet kind of pain, a stark realization that you feel utterly alone, even in the presence of familiar faces. People often say that humans are social creatures, that connection is vital, and that interactions are the foundation of happiness. But if that's true, why does being around others sometimes feel so draining? Why does the very act of socializing leave you exhausted, overwhelmed, or even resentful? Maybe it's the constant pressure to perform, to smile, to engage, to keep the conversation flowing even when you're running on empty. There's an expectation to be on, to mold yourself into the kind of person who thrives in these spaces, even when all you want is a moment of quiet. Or perhaps it's the superficiality of small talk, the mundane exchanges that never seem to scratch the surface of anything real. You crave depth, but instead, you find yourself wading through shallow conversations that feel meaningless, forced, and repetitive. Then there's the judgment, the subtle glances when you excuse yourself early from a social gathering, the well-meaning but intrusive questions. Are you okay? Why are you so quiet? As if preferring solitude is a flaw that needs to be explained or fixed. And let's not forget the sensory overload. The noise, the lights, the unspoken social rules, the constant presence of others, it all adds up, creating an environment that feels more suffocating than fulfilling. You try to adjust, to blend in, but deep down, you know that the more you push yourself into these situations, the more disconnected you feel. So when someone asks, why don't you like being around people? They're expecting a simple answer. But you know better. It's not about hating people. It's about a fundamental mismatch between your inner world and the external demands of social life. The truth is, there are countless reasons why you feel this way. Each one is shaped by your personality, experiences, and the way you process the world. These aren't flaws, they are simply parts of who you are. 1. You are an introvert. There is a quiet kind of power in solitude, isn't there? A space where you can breathe, where your thoughts can roam freely without being interrupted by the noise of the world. A place where you are not required to perform, to entertain, or to constantly engage. For you, solitude isn't loneliness, it's freedom. It's a return to yourself. You don't avoid people because you dislike them. You withdraw because being around others for too long can feel overwhelming, even exhausting. Social interactions, no matter how pleasant, can feel like running a marathon with no finish line, draining you of the energy you need to feel like yourself again. As an introvert, you don't crave the spotlight, the crowds, or the constant stimulation that so many seem to seek. You crave depth. You crave meaning. You are drawn not to noise, but to quiet. Not to surface-level chatter, but to conversations that make you think, that awaken something deep inside you. You don't want to skim the surface of human connection. You want to dive into the depths, to explore, to understand, to truly know and be known. But those kinds of connections are rare. Most conversations seem to flit from one topic to another, never truly landing anywhere meaningful. And there's always the unspoken expectation to be on all the time, to smile, to respond quickly, to keep the conversation flowing, even when all you really want is silence. It's not that you can't be social. You can engage, and when you do, you can be warm, thoughtful, and even charismatic. But it comes at a cost, because every interaction feels like a transaction. Every conversation, every social gathering requires you to give away a little bit of yourself. And sometimes it feels like you're giving away too much. The world isn't designed for introverts. Society celebrates the outgoing, the talkative, the ones who thrive in crowds. When you choose to step back, to observe rather than participate, people assume something is wrong. They wonder why you're so quiet. They ask why you don't come out of your shell. They misinterpret your silence as disinterest, your need for solitude as coldness. But what they don't see is the rich, expansive world inside of you, a universe of thoughts, ideas, dreams, and emotions, spinning in their own quiet rhythm. A world that doesn't need to be constantly shared to be valuable. So you retreat, not because you fear connection, not because you dislike people, but because you understand the importance of balance. You understand that being alone is not a weakness, but a necessity. Solitude isn't about escaping the world. It's about recharging, about reconnecting with yourself in a way that is essential for your well-being. And if that means people misunderstand you, that's okay. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone. You don't need to justify your need for space, for quiet, for time alone. Because in the end, you know your truth. Your solitude is not a prison, it is your sanctuary. 2. You have trust issues. Trust is a fragile currency in relationships. For some, it has been spent too freely, only to be met with betrayal in return. If you've ever been hurt by a friend who turned their back on you, a partner who shattered your faith, or a family member who let you down, you know how difficult it is to rebuild that trust once it's broken. It's not just about moving on. It's about learning how to feel safe again. The problem isn't that you're paranoid. The problem is that you've learned sometimes the hard way that not everyone deserves the benefit of the doubt. Imagine opening up to someone, sharing your deepest thoughts and vulnerabilities, only to have your words twisted and used against you. The pain is sharp, but worse than that is the confusion. Suddenly, you don't just doubt others, you start doubting yourself. How could I have misjudged them? Can I even trust my own instincts anymore? So you retreat, not because you don't want connection, but because you've seen the cost of trusting the wrong person. And it's a cost you're not willing to pay again. But deep down, you still long for connection. You still want someone who understands you not just on the surface, but in the way that truly matters. Yet that desire is constantly at war with the hard-earned lessons of your past. Rebuilding trust is possible, but it's a slow, delicate process. It requires patience, proof, and time. You've learned that trust should never be given away too easily, it should be earned. So if you're cautious, if you keep your guard up, if you take your time before letting someone in, that's not a flaw. That's wisdom. Because trust, once broken, is never the same again. And before you offer it to someone, you have every right to make sure they're worthy of it. 3. You're spending time with the wrong people. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Not everyone is meant to walk beside you on your journey. And not everyone you meet will bring value, warmth, or meaning into your life. It's not that you dislike socializing. In fact, when you're around the right people, the ones who make you feel seen, heard, and understood, conversation flows effortlessly. Time seems to slow down, and the connection feels natural. But too often, you find yourself surrounded by the wrong people, people who drain your energy, frustrate you, or leave you feeling lonelier than if you had been alone. There are those who talk endlessly about themselves, never once pausing to ask about you. People who treat you as nothing more than an audience for their personal monologues, as if your presence exists solely to validate them. Then there are the ones who thrive on negativity, the chronic complainers, the ones who always have something bad to say about someone or something. Every conversation with them is an emotional tug of war. pulling you deeper into their cycle of pessimism, leaving you carrying the weight of problems that were never yours to begin with. And let's not forget the ones who disguise their toxicity behind a charming smile. The ones who lace their words with subtle digs, who offer jokes that cut just a little too deep, who mask their criticisms as playful banter. They make you second-guess yourself, wonder if you're being too sensitive, and leave you questioning their true intentions. When every interaction feels forced, when every conversation feels like a performance, when you constantly feel the need to filter yourself, to shrink yourself, to be someone you're not just to fit in, it's no wonder you prefer solitude. It's not people that you dislike. It's feeling unseen. It's feeling like your voice doesn't matter. It's investing in relationships that take more than they give. It's the exhausting effort of pretending to be comfortable in spaces that were never meant for you. What you crave isn't just social interaction, it's meaningful connection. You long for people who inspire you, who challenge you in the best way possible, who make you feel lighter instead of weighed down. You want depth, not just surface-level small talk. You want to be around people who truly understand you, who make you feel safe, who make life's chaos a little easier to navigate. And until you find those people, you'd rather walk alone, because you know that being alone in your own company is far better than feeling lonely in the company of the wrong ones. 4. You struggle with low self-esteem. Sometimes your desire to withdraw from social situations has nothing to do with other people. It has everything to do with you. It's not that you dislike company. It's that deep down, you feel like you don't belong, like you're not interesting enough, not smart enough, not charismatic enough to hold someone's attention. Every interaction feels like a test you're destined to fail. You overanalyze every word, every expression, every awkward pause. Did I just say something stupid? Do they think I'm boring? Was that joke even funny? You worry that every flaw, every imperfection, is on full display for the world to see. These thoughts don't just come and go, they linger. They echo in your mind long after a conversation has ended, replaying every moment in excruciating detail. What should have been a simple social interaction becomes an exhausting mental spiral, making you question everything about yourself. But here's the truth. People aren't judging you as harshly as you think. Most of the time, they're too caught up in their own insecurities to notice yours. That awkward laugh, that stumble over your words, those moments that feel like failures in your mind, they barely register in anyone else's. Your worth isn't defined by how well you navigate social settings. It isn't measured by how witty or confident you appear in a conversation. The fact that you struggle with self-doubt doesn't make you less valuable. It simply means you're human. Overcoming low self-esteem isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's about recognizing that you are already enough. And until you truly believe that, no amount of external validation will ever feel like enough. 5. You experience social anxiety. Have you ever felt your heart race, your palms grow sweaty, and your stomach tighten just at the thought of walking into a crowded room? Social anxiety isn't just about being shy. It's a relentless battle between wanting connection and fearing judgment. It's the fear of saying the wrong thing, the fear of awkward silences, the fear of being scrutinized, misunderstood, or worse, completely ignored. It's replaying past conversations in your head for hours, picking apart every word, convincing yourself that you somehow embarrassed yourself. It's dreading an event for weeks, convincing yourself that something will go wrong, that people will notice your nervousness, that you'll be judged for not being as effortlessly social as everyone else. And even when things do go well, the anxiety doesn't disappear, because your mind still finds ways to convince you that you weren't good enough. You don't avoid people because you don't care, you avoid them because you care too much. Too much about how you're perceived, too much about saying the wrong thing, too much about being a burden. But here's the thing, your fears are lying to you. Most people aren't analyzing your every move. Most people aren't waiting for you to mess up. And even if you do, so what? Imperfection is what makes us human. Overcoming social anxiety isn't about forcing yourself into discomfort overnight. It's about taking small steps, being kind to yourself, and learning that your worth isn't defined by how well you perform in social settings. And until you feel ready to step into the world without fear, there's nothing wrong with choosing solitude. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing isn't fitting into the world's expectations. It's learning to be at peace with yourself. At the heart of it all, your preference for solitude isn't something that needs to be fixed or explained away. It's not a flaw, not a shortcoming, and certainly not a sign that something is wrong with you. The way you experience the world, whether through the lens of introversion, trust issues, mismatched social circles, low self-esteem, or social anxiety, is simply a part of who you are. And that's okay. We live in a world that constantly pushes the idea that happiness is found in social connections, that being outgoing and constantly engaged is the ideal. But the truth is, fulfillment looks different for everyone. Some people recharge in the presence of others. Others find peace in their own company. Neither is right or wrong. It's just a matter of what aligns with your nature. Maybe you're someone who thrives in deep, meaningful conversations rather than fleeting small talk. Maybe you've been hurt before and are wary of opening up too soon. Maybe you simply feel overwhelmed by the noise, the expectations, and the unspoken social roles that seem to demand more from you than you're willing or able to give. Whatever the reason, your desire for solitude doesn't mean you don't crave connection. It doesn't mean you're incapable of love, friendship, or meaningful relationships. It simply means that your energy is precious, and you choose carefully where to invest it. And that's a powerful thing. Because when you do connect with the right people, in the right circumstances, it's not out of obligation or pressure, but out of genuine desire. It's not about proving yourself or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about showing up as your true self, unapologetically. So if you find comfort in your own space, embrace it. If social situations leave you drained, honor that feeling. If solitude is where you find peace, don't let the world convince you that you need to change. At the end of the day, life isn't about conforming to what others expect, it's about finding what makes you feel most alive. And if that means stepping back from the crowd, taking a deep breath, and finding joy in your own quiet world, then so be it. You're not alone in your solitude. You are simply someone who understands the value of your own presence. And that is something worth celebrating.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.